Today, we will be doing a full-on comparison between some of the best USB condenser microphones I have come across. We will be testing these to see which is the best one for streaming and YouTube videos coming up right now. So let the battle begin. For more great content just like this, just make sure to subscribe and then turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any uploads. Also leave a like and a comment down below with all of your thoughts on this video. And while you're at it, I always leave affiliate links down below in the description as well. But make sure that you check out Lukrembo so you can find the best deals on all of that tech that you're shopping for. It's a simple browser extension that helps you make the best purchasing decision. And lastly, don't forget to check out my merch store if you're into some monochrome clothing like everything I'm wearing right here. So with that said, links to everything down below. So let's briefly talk about each mic that will be featured in this competition. And we will run these tests in order of price, so from cheapest to most expensive in that order. So, however, just so you know, I've already done individual reviews of each microphone that I featured in this video, so if you would like to see how a specific microphone performs, you can find the link to that review in the description. And first we have the Maono AU903 coming at $75. Then we have the Fifine K678 coming in at $80. Then we have the Amazon Basics Pro USB mic coming in at $120. And the next three mics are equally priced at around $130. And those are the Blue Yeti, the Elgato Wave 1, and the Razer Siren Emote. Then we have the HyperX Quadcast, which is also coming in at around $140, just a little bit more expensive. And lastly, we have the Elgato Wave 3 coming in at $160. Let's go ahead and start the comparison right now. And the first part of this competition has to do with the build quality. So the Maono AU903 mic is built entirely out of metal with a pretty hefty base. Though it is quite small and lightweight, this microphone has a very nice matte black finish to it, which I really like. And the Fifine K678 is also built out of metal, but it has a soft touch finish all over the exterior, and it's also very small with a rather nice looking stand as well, and it does feel hefty in the hand in spite of its size. Now the Amazon Basics Pro mic is built out of metal and it's massive. It looks like a giant capsule and it comes with a pretty hefty base, but both are weighed nicely regardless and look quite good in its matte black configuration. And the Blue Yeti shares a lot of those same characteristics, though it is more stylized and has a nicer base and is also slightly larger and possibly built about the same, but I would say maybe just a little bit better than the Amazon Basics Pro mic. The Elgato Wave 1 is comprised more so of plastic and is much smaller than the Yeti, but still taller than the first two mics and has a nice base to hold it up. And the Razer Siren Emote is also mostly made out of plastic, for the exception of the grill itself and the base, which is going to be actually a flexible base, which is kind of nice to have, but also a bit of a double-edged sword, and it's probably the smallest or the second to smallest of the entire bunch. And now the HyperX Quadcast appears to be made of plastic for the most part, and it's very lightweight, but it doesn't feel cheap necessarily. It looks beautiful with its unique red accented style and soft touch texture for its styles and things of the like. The stand is one of the most unique ones over here as well, and it's also lightweight, and not to mention that it comes with a built-in shock mount as well, which is honestly pretty fantastic. That sounds like a pretty good value to me. And all this probably makes it the lightest microphone too. Probably. Then there's the Elgato Wave 3, which similarly built to the Wave 1, it's just taller because it has more knobs, but they share almost identical characteristics otherwise. And now, as for buttons and ports, the Maono AU903 mic has a mic knob and headphone gain knobs on the front with a polar pattern switch on the back, a headphone jack, and the USB-C port for power. This mounts directly from the stand as well. The Fifine K678 has a mic mute switch on the front, and both a mic gain and headphone gain knob on the back, while at the bottom you will find the odd mounting system, a headphone jack, and a mini USB port for power. And it actually mounts to an arm through an included adapter that you're going to find right in the box, and that you actually have to screw directly into one of the threaded mounts on the bottom of this microphone. Now the Amazon Basics Pro mic has a mic gain knob, headphone gain knob, and polar pattern switch along with an OLED screen for visual monitoring on the very front, and on the bottom it's got a micro USB port for power a headphone jack, and the mounting thread, which is quite nice to have. And the Blue Yeti has a mute switch and headphone gain knob on the front, and a mic gain knob and bowler pattern switch on the back, while at the bottom you will find the mini USB port, a headphone jack, and a threaded mounting system. The Wave 1 has a mic gain knob on the front and a USB-C port and headphone jack around the back, and it mounts directly through the stand itself, which kind of behaves as a bit of a shock mount also, but not really. And the Razer Siren emote has a headphone gain knob and mute button on the back, and on the bottom you're going to find the micro USB port for power. You're also going to get the threaded mount, and you're going to get a headphone jack as well. On the HyperX Quadcast, you're going to find a mic gain knob on the bottom and a capacitive mute switch on the top, and you will find the polar pattern switch on the back, and since this already comes with a shock mount, that's how you would mount it onto an arm. And the Wave 3 has a knob slash button, and that is capable of adjusting the mic gain and headphone gain and mixing right on the front with some LED indicators to show it too, with a capacitive mute switch right on top, and USB-C port for power on the back, as well as a headphone jack. And just like the Wave 1, this mounts from the stand itself. And now let us go ahead and talk about the accuracy of what these microphones sounds like when you're monitoring the audio back into your headphones versus what it sounds like when you actually play it back your recording. So with the Mono AU309, sounds pretty tinny in the monitoring portion, and you hear much more aggressive S's and S'ing when just monitoring the audio, and then what you do actually get in the recording when you play it back into your ears. So the monitoring experience with this microphone isn't very good due to its inaccuracy. However, the Fifine does a much better job at monitoring the sound, as you do get a very similar sound back into your headphones as what you can expect back from the recording, except that similarly to the Mono, you are still dealing with heavy S's, but they're not quite as aggressive here, if I'm honest. And the Amazon Basics Pro mic is going to deliver on a very accurate monitoring experience, as what you're speaking into the microphone is exactly what you will be hearing back into your ears, and pretty much the same quality as well. It is going to be a pretty great experience here, and I don't really have too much to complain about here. And the Blue Yeti has one of the most confusing instances of audio monitoring, to be honest. So it is a little bit more compressed than what you will hear from the recordings, but I can have the headphone gain knob all the way up and the mic gain not even at 50%, and it's going to sound pretty good going back into the headphones. However, I won't know that I'm actually peaking in Audition unless I'm looking at it, because the output from the headphone jack is far too low on this microphone, so monitoring is a big miss for me here, and it's almost useless. And the Wave 1 is going to give you a mostly accurate listen of what your recording will sound like as you're speaking into it. However, there's going to be more bass or more echo that you will hear when monitoring than what you will get in the actual recording itself. So I would say that the monitoring is pretty good. Just be mindful of the extra bassiness that won't actually be in the recording itself. Now, the Razer Siren emote has the most misleading instance of audio monitoring. You're going to hear a very clean signal going into your ears as you're speaking into the mic, and it sounds pleasing, but once you hear it back, you will notice that this microphone just tried to hide all of those distortions, the plosives, and the nasally nature of this mic's true sound. There's a massive discrepancy here, and I really don't like that. Basically useless for monitoring. The HyperX Quadcast has very good monitoring capabilities. What you're hearing back into your ears as you're speaking into the microphone is almost exactly what you will hear back from any recordings, so you will know if you're peaking. However, under normal circumstances, this mic won't even let you anyways. This is a great experience here, and it's super clean as well. And the Wave 3 sounds exactly like the Wave 1 when it comes to monitoring. So whenever you make any changes like add a clip guard or low pass filter, this microphone will allow you to hear it back and notice it. But overall, it's the same experience as the Wave 1. Just be mindful of the extra bassiness from the monitoring, and you'll be fine. Just remember that it won't be present in the actual recording, and essentially you're still getting a pretty good experience overall. Now, all of these are going to offer zero latency monitoring right out of the box, which is nice. They don't all sound very good. And now we're going to move on to a sound test with each one of them and how they handle exterior noise, and this is all going to be in the cardioid pattern. So let's go ahead and have a listen to each of these. Now, this is going to be a direct mic test involving the Mono 9 AU903 microphone. And this is going to be a test from about, I would say, 6 inches away from the microphone or so. And this is what the microphone is going to sound like from a relatively normal speaking distance. Now, this is going to be a microphone test with the Fifine K678 microphone from about 6 inches away, I would say, which is around the normal speaking distance that you would get. And now this is what the Amazon Basics Pro mic is going to sound like from about 5 to 6 inches away from it, which is going to be normal speaking distance, I would say, for the most part. And it is going to be attached to its own stand, so it's standing on my desk just like the rest of these microphones as well. And this is what it's going to sound like from this distance, and with the gain usually all the way up. Now, this is going to be a sound test with the Blue Yeti, and I'm going to be at about, I would say, 4 to 5 inches away from it. This is going to be about normal speaking distance, and it's right now currently on its stand. And this is what it's going to sound like from this distance, which is pretty normal. This is going to be the test with the Razer Siren emote, and this is what it's going to sound like of about 4 to 5 inches away from it. Since this is actually a little more of a flexible stand, I can get it a little bit closer to my face, as a matter of fact. However, this is the kind of sound that you would be getting at this distance coming from the stand, from it sitting right on my desk, with not too much noise going around, and that is what that's going to sound like. And now this test is going to be with the Elgato Wave 1, and I do have the gain set pretty high. I'm close to clipping, but I'm not exactly clipping. But either way, I'm speaking at this microphone from actually somewhere around 6 to 8 inches away from it, since this is a small microphone and it's all the way down on my desk on its tiny stand and that kind of thing. And this is the kind of sound that you would be getting from this kind of circumstances. However, if you get a little bit closer to it, this is the kind of sound you can get from it. It's a little bit more acute and it sounds more bassy per se, more podcasty. However, this is a more regular or more expected speaking distance, so this is where my testing is going to be surrounding. And now this is what the HyperX Quadcast is going to sound like from this distance. It is currently on its stand and its shock mount, and I'm speaking directly into it from about 5 to 6 inches away from it, and I would say that this is a pretty normal speaking distance for the majority of microphones. This is what it's going to sound like overall with that kind of configuration. This is going to be the sound test with the Elgato Wave 3. And now the Wave 3 is a little bit taller, hence I would say that it's probably around an inch closer to my mouth from its stand. So this is what that is going to sound like, since I would consider this to be about normal speaking distance. However, if you got a lot closer, you would get some more of that acute, podcasty, bassy sound. However, if you spoke to it from this distance, this is the kind of sound that you should be expecting. Now, this is what it sounds like when you try to talk over that super loud sound. And now this is what it sounds like when you try to talk over that noise, and this is what it does in order to compensate for that other external noise. And this is how it's going to handle you speaking over that sound through this microphone, and how this microphone is going to try to compensate for the sound in the background and the sound of your voice going into it. So this is what that is going to sound like. And now this is what it sounds like when you try to talk over that sound, and what the Blue Yeti is going to do in order to compensate, or I suppose what a combination of the two sounds like in tandem. And this is what it's going to be like to speak over that noise into this microphone. If you have to be under those kinds of circumstances, this is the kind of sound that you should be expecting out of it, and what this microphone does in order to compensate for the background noise and the sound going directly into it, which is from your voice. So this is what that is going to sound like. And this is what it's going to sound like when you try to speak directly into this microphone while trying to manage all the background sound as well. So this is what So this is what a circumstance or situation like that is going to sound like if you need to have your AC on, or if you just have a lot of noise, if you're just in a super noisy environment and you have to speak into this microphone directly like this. This is the kind of sound that you should be expecting out of it. And this is how the HyperX Quadcast is going to handle you speaking over that kind of sound, and this is what it would sound like in tandem with a super loud AC going on in the background and with your voice going directly into it. This is how the HyperX Quadcast is going to handle those types of sounds and noises. And now this is what it would sound like while trying to manage both sounds going on, so the sound of my voice going directly into the microphone and the sound of the environment, that being from the AC. And this is how that is essentially going to handle having to deal with both sounds at the same time. So yeah, there you go. So now I'm finally ready to deliver on my conclusion. If your budget is under $100, then I would go for the Fifine K678 instead of the Mono AU903. Not only are the monitoring capabilities more accurate, but it also sounds noticeably better too, because it gives you a little more thickness to your voice and isn't as harsh with the S's. That $5 difference is worth it, trust me. If your budget is around $130, or maybe just a little bit less, then my pick is probably for the Amazon Basics mic. This is because this microphone already gives you the most accurate monitoring experience, and the sound coming from it is already pretty good. I mean, it does a decent job at projecting other noises, you do get pretty clean audio with it, and it is more natural than what some other ones will give you. It's also built really well too, and this is the cheapest of this category, at the very least of this price range that I just mentioned. And the Yeti sounds great, and it's built very well too, but the monitoring on it isn't very good. The Wave 1 I thought sounded maybe just a little bit better than both of these because it adds more richness to your voice for broadcast purposes, and it just sounds better in my opinion, but it lacks in the build quality, to be honest. But if you're careful with it, this is still going to be a great choice if I'm honest, and you get good embedded software control with it as well, thanks to the Wave software that Elgato provides. And now, these comments will also extend to the Wave 3, and what separates the two will be the fact that you have those same software controls, but on the hardware of the Wave 3, for instance, you also get those controls, and they're just more readily accessible in that sense, which is what makes the Wave 3 a better pick in my opinion if you can afford it, and it definitely comes in handy to have those. And if you have a Stream Deck, for the record, you have so much control over your audio if you use these Wave mics, so I can recommend this line of mics, especially if you have a Stream Deck. But if you don't, and you want a Wave, then just go ahead and get the Wave 3, because that's as close as you'll get for an extra $30 to getting those hardware controls, or some of them at the very least. And the HyperX gave me the cleanest monitoring experience and the cleanest audio as well. It just kind of lacked on the low end a little bit, so it's not maybe ideal for broadcast scenarios in my opinion, but it still sounded very good even with my voice, because it does aim for a more natural sound, and I honestly really like it. And the controls also feel really nice on this microphone. Like, this is a really good value in my opinion. Also, it's the best one by default at rejecting other sound, because it has a built-in shock mount, so this is probably the best value out of all of them. And now, the Razer Siren emote was my second to least favorite of the bunch, because the monitoring experience is going to be awful, as it is completely misleading and inaccurate, and the sound quality that it outputs honestly puts it behind even the Fifine K678 for me. And this microphone is $50 cheaper than the Siren over here, so hey. And not to mention that it's lacking in its build too, for sure. My top 3 mics have to be in this order: the Elgato Wave 3, the HyperX Quadcast, and the Amazon Basics Pro mic. However, I hope all of this information has been helpful to you, and if you have any more questions about this, I'd be happy to answer them down in the comments as well. And now, if you're interested in purchasing any of these microphones, if I can find any links on Amazon, then I'll be making sure to be leaving them linked down below. These are all going to be affiliated, so if you click on any of these and make a purchase, I get a small commission that does help me run things just a little bit more smoothly. You're also going to find reviews to each individual microphone down below, and don't forget that Luster is a great option for you, because it's going to help you find sales and help you find other places to purchase these microphones if they're not available on Amazon, because they scour the entire web to help you find the best choices, and it and it recommends microphones to you based on user feedback. It is a free browser extension that isn't intrusive by any means, so I would strongly recommend that you install it so that it can help you on your purchasing journey. Links to that below as well. And do make sure to also follow me on Twitch, as I like to stream every Friday and Saturday, and every time I release an individual microphone review. So with that said, links to that below, as well as links to my Twitter and my Instagram to stay up to date with the latest and greatest regarding the Tech Summit endeavors. But with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit, a very long video, an interesting one, and I will see you all on the next one. Enjoy.